thanks so much for taking some time, not just with the time differences allowing us to do this meeting now, but also taking some time to give some feedback on the Highway to 100 Unicorns program. It's definitely based around startups and founders, and what the success is only measured by your success. So we are really keen to hear about, what it is that you do, what it is that your startup does, and what Microsoft has been able to do, and the different challenges and everything just from your point of view today. So I'll just introduce myself. I'm Cathy, and I am the business operations manager and the ecosystem manager for APAC. And I'm in Sydney. So it's my job to sort of manage the community and try and get everybody mixing together and getting the very most out of what it is that Microsoft for Startups offer. So I'm going to hand over to you to do most of the talking today. And what I think we've got a set of questions, but we can sort of let it go organically if there's things that you definitely want to cover or things that you think are important to note. So we'll just kick off and see how we go.
All right. Hi. So I'm Tayef. So I was born and brought up in Bangladesh. Graduated as a academically I'm an engineer, but turned let's say entrepreneur. So we started our business like this problem. So if I say what we do is basically we solve location problem that's where it's not probably solved. Let's say the frontier markets where the location problem is not solved for B2B. We are a B2B and B2G company, so I would rather say everything. So everyone thinks Google solved the problem for the world of location, but it's not the case for frontier markets or even for emerging markets, especially for businesses, because every country has different needs. Every business had different needs for their own operations, and to make them efficient, one map does not fit all, right? So that's why I think you would see regional leaders in multiple countries. Like in Russia, there is Yandex. In India, there is Map My India, who are doing tremendously well. And there is Mapbox. In general, if we look into that. So this is what we do. So we are a location data platform. Focused on Bangladesh for now, and looking forward to replicate the model, let's say 2-3 years down the lane in frontier markets who are just getting there. Um, I think that is what we do. And if we go forward about, let's say, the biggest challenges that we face at this point is, I'll go by naturally in that on order of progression. That so there are a few companies to look at when we are the space we are working in. There are not a lot of companies that actually does location data right at scale. So there is only Google, there is Yandex, and they're both they're B2B and B2C at the same time, right? So they get their data from B2C and do it for B2B, sell it to B2B. And what we do is that we get our own data because we are not a B2C platform yet, and then sell it to B2B. So, and how should we distribute? And especially for the frontier markets. So there is no benchmark that I can look into. Hey, look, they have done this way. We can do this that way. So the only closest benchmark we have is probably MapMy India because they have done it for India and looking forward to like expand outside India. So I think distribution and field knowledge expert is not properly there in terms of our country. Probably for the front developed markets, it's there. For Australia, that is there. I think Australia has GNAF, which is the largest address database for Australia that is publicly available. For us, the challenges are much higher, so there is no data out there. You have to go out there manually, collect every sort of data. And so what we do is that we make sure that our distribution is proper so that we can overcome with the challenges, or we don't know what challenges we'll be facing going forward because this is new. This is kind of new for this part of the world. That's what we, I think, face that the distribution and somewhat to look up. So we look at Google, it's okay. We look into Russia, okay. But for businesses, we have to figure out our own strategies. And
And I
yeah.
read, in your research of this, that you writers were using up to 5,000 hours a day calling customers to
Yeah,
try and get their exact location,
yeah.
kind of going
So
around
so
in
we
circles.
we figured out the whole chain now. So that was only the part where people calling customers for addresses. Now we figured
Mm,
out since pandemic accelerated e-commerce in a good way and logistics as
absolutely.
well, and so we figured out that companies are not able to scale like first generation and transactional companies like last mile logistics companies. If you cannot automate, you cannot deliver 10, 20,000, 50,000 deliveries a day. So in the process, we figured out that they are actually wasting 100,000 hours a day, just sorting manually, figuring it out where it is, and then you add up that 5,000 hours. Let's say, hey, where am I gonna come? Because this is something very common. Even if you have a very good address in a very good posh area, they'll call you 3 to 4 times. Hey, I'm coming,
Yeah.
and right. And another problem is, so let's say in USA, if you think that people can drop parcels in the front gate and go, like normally what Amazon does, it's not the case for this part of the world. You'll have to wait. Someone will come, check, and then check whatever they have ordered. So it is time consuming. So if you think like that, so in USA, the delivery efficiency is like 100 to 120 parcel per day per delivery person. For Bangladesh, it's 30. So there is a
Wow.
huge gap, right? So a huge opportunity in terms of efficiency only in the last mile logistics industry. And when we went deep, because we are targeting one industry at a time, understanding their problem with ours, and then going forward. So when we went into, so last year we went into multiple directions. Let's say we are looking in, we understand the problem of last mile logistics. Now, what's the problem in retail? What's the problem in supply chain? We figured out that every industry has their own set of problems that actually gives us a very large problem to solve, because addressing something is very important. People don't take care of it because it's there, it was there, it will be there, but having it structured can make life a lot easier for, let's say, 170 million people here in Bangladesh and probably in the frontier markets as well. So
Definitely, and it's the
yeah,
same. It's the same for every country. And as you say, the B2B, specific industry is really important, because while everybody knows what their address is and that that's a normal address, a delivery driver has to deal with all
deliver
these
there.
different formats, all these different unique addresses, and their unique situations when they get there. So you've definitely got your work cut out for you. But as with every startup that does extremely well, when you can see so many problems rippling out that you're excited about solving, you're definitely onto a good thing.
Right.
And I'm curious, in your time so far with the 100 Highway to 100 Unicorns program, have you sort of been able to make any impact on driving through those issues or those challenges?
I think everyone picks something very personal to them from every program or every webinar. I think not everything would be directed to completely to us because it is a program for a lot of people. But what I understand, so sometimes a few times back there was a session called social sales to B2B, like
Yes.
enterprises. So what I took from
With
there is
Joanna
that,
Inch.
right, yeah. So what I took is that, so for us, I'm a first time founder. So getting B2B sales takes time. And it's not like B2C that you'll buy something and you'll pay. There's a cycle. And for me, the challenge is simply like, let's say, digest the whole part that is going to take 1 year probably working with them, right? Or 6 months or 3 months. The sales cycle is big since we are a B2B and B2G company. There, what it helped me to carve out few things that I was doing wrong. Probably I can make it better, or let's say 50% better, better, because so I took that part, right? So I think the whole program is probably designed for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
if you can pick as a founder, it's my job is to pick what actually can applies to my business. So I think that was so. So I said that I'm a technical founder. So sales is not my forte. Was not my forte. But in the last 3 years, I have been continuously selling. So I know how to sell now. I have
Yeah.
learned it. But I think every time I talk, let's say talk to these people or join something, I carve out 2 3 things, not everything, but 2 3 things that I can incorporate, test it out for 2 months, and then see that how it works. So I think that was a pretty helpful session for me to understand that how the sales cycle will go, how how should I approach that? Because it's a relationship. Normally for us, it's like, okay, I'll go and sell, but it's a relationship. It's a social relationship when you are doing B2B. It's very
Yeah.
nice. It is very
And
nice.
that's a real credit to you to be able to spot the moments that you need to be to show up to something. So if you're a technical founder, then the elements of the Highway to 100 program that are focusing on the sales or the gaps that you feel that that you sort of could probably do well to attend to. So that's good to, I guess that's really good feedback to hear that the variety of program inclusions mean that you can pick and choose what you show up to and get out of the program.
Right.
And I guess my next question would be, given your technology background, do you have some key criteria when you make technology decisions for, anything going forward for
Yeah, I
Barikoi?
think for the last 3 years, things has been very ad hoc because we didn't actually know that what's gonna end up or where it can go because we haven't been able to do the projections because things were new
Mm,
last 2 years. But for the last year, things have been pretty stable. We have grown, let's say, from 1,000 MRR to 10,000 MRR within that part. So now things are better, things are stable, and now we take decisions based on planning, not ad hoc.
wow.
So I
Wow.
think
What a word in
uh,
the startup world, stable.
right, yeah, so like in terms of the vertical they're stable that we work in, so they have a like we have good GTM for them. We figured out the GTM, go to market strategy, how to sell them, and how to actually make improve them with better technology every time we go out there. So I think we had a discussion with the Microsoft team about what sort of services can we use because these are very new to Bangladesh as well. The developers are not very comfortable using new technology. I think everyone fears change, so is the developer because everyone will think that if I use this and I waste a lot of time, and then
Yeah.
since we don't have a lot of time, it's wasting its time. So I think that session actually helped in that part. Look, we can let's say do 25% improvement on that particular thing, and that's how we now plan because from 10,000 1,000 to 10,000 for Bangladeshi market, which is just growing, and the market is big, but it's just growing. It's just getting started. So uh, even technically doing it in that scale is something very important that we understand now. In the last 1 year, we figured out that now we have to be stable with our technology.
Mm,
Let go everything because if it's not that, we are serving, let's say, Unilever Bangladesh, few FMCG companies, few government agencies, big startups that are growing very fast, right? Uh, so if we are not stable, they're not going to come to us.
yeah.
That is simple, as
Amazing,
simple as that.
amazing insight. And, there's only one way to find out this kind of
Right.
stuff, and it's to sort of make those, not mistakes, but to try things out at the start and then kind
Right.
of see what
Right.
is going to get you to that holy grail of stable. And stable during COVID is unheard of. So it's remarkable that that's how you feel the business is going.
Yeah, I
Um,
think during COVID we have grown 12x in our revenue, so it's been good to us.
yeah, congratulations. Just
Thanks
stop
for
there
that.
to say congratulations. That's amazing. And do you have, any plans for expansion into other markets, or are you just focused on what it is that you know that you can do at the moment? Like how far ahead, and how do you see, if you do have those aspirations, do you see Microsoft um, being
Yeah, yeah. I think the frontier. So, what I always say that look, every country that is being developed, so or that has been developed in the last 50 years, has their own sort of challenges and patterns, right? So, for the last 100 years, developed economies developed on a certain scale, but now the frontier markets would actually develop faster than them. Like probably they did in 100 years, they'll do 20 years because
yeah,
of technology and everything, right? Um, and as I see that if I can prove a model of, let's say, with B2B and mapping in Bangladesh, the same thing can be replicated in the frontier markets like Nigeria and Pakistan, in Guinea-Bissau, in Kenya. These are all similar sort of people, similar markets, similar demographics, and
mm,
even, let's say, like similar GDPs, right? So we actually have plans by, let's say, by 2023 4 we'd like to look into that, where I'm already talking to someone in Guinea-Bissau. Although this is a small country, but they want to replicate the same model. Why not? If we
yeah,
can do that, why not? And I think given the strength of Microsoft is that they were enterprise for a long time. They know how to do it. They have connections everywhere. Probably our government stack actually runs on Microsoft Azure, like the stack or something, or they provide it for the government. So I think, and we need to work with the governments as well. So I
Yes.
see a very good partnership between Microsoft and Barikoi going forward, because Microsoft has their own maps, like Bing Maps as well. So working together would help us to, let's say, expand in terms of relationship, in terms of like the connections we probably need there going forward. That because I'm a Bangladeshi native, I don't know other countries. I have to be there for at least 2 years to understand. But what if Microsoft can connect me to the head of that country?
Yeah.
It's
And
easier
you know,
to
it's
understand.
that's absolutely one of the you've hit the nail on the head with something that we aim to do with the Microsoft for Startups Highway program is be instrumental in making those connections and fast track startups
Right.
to those kinds of relationships where possible. Because you're right, if there's one thing that Microsoft does very well, it's enterprise. And so how do we actually leverage that for our startups and get them in front of who they need to be? But I feel with this program, you definitely get as much as you give, and you've got such a clear vision of where you might be able to extract the most value from this. So super top marks for participation.
Right.
And so coming to the end of, it's a very short interview, and I know that we
Right.
could talk more and more, and I think we really should. We'd love to keep a track on, how things go in the very near future for you. But my last question is possibly a tired one, but one that is different for every single startup. And that
Right.
is, how has COVID affected or transformed your business? I mean, we talked at the start about COVID really ramping up
Right.
e-commerce deliveries. Possibly it's a big part of your business being so successful and necessary. But yeah, what are the other elements of your business that COVID has touched?
I think what COVID has changed in terms of business and working is the mindset of people, right? Uh, and at the end of the day, it's the mindset that how things are changing, how you adopt. Because as human being, we're very good at adapting, right? So other than the business part, so I said that my business actually has grown because I have seen that revenue doubling just in a month, because someone just did some promotions and like boom. But on the other hand, it actually changed how people work, how people see and value life. They
Mm,
have better priorities in everything, and understanding that how, because from our perspective, we have a very nascent startup ecosystem, like in Bangladesh, right? There are like 300 to 400 startups that are doing okay, and there are 5 to 10 startups who are doing really well, like did raise 100 million, 102 million, $200 million. But on the so at that point, I would rather say that it's been a eye-opening part of being a founder, that anything can change within just a matter of a week. You should be prepared for it, and you should always stand by your team first, because they are the people you are responsible for, other than your family, because this is another family. So this, I think, this was a very humbling experience to understand, and thank God to, let's say, internet, that we were able to connect at that point as well, because of there was Zoom, there was Microsoft Team, there is Google Meet. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster, and like, every business would like go down the lane. But I think this was awesome. Like how so we can now say that the world can go down, but we are not gonna go down.
yeah. What a lovely ethos. It's a pleasure to see. I mean, you say you've got this technical background first, but you are all heart. You have an amazing um, collision of all these wonderful attributes that make for a great founder, and that starts a wonderful startup. So um, I think there's so much left to talk about, which we're going to leave as a bit of a teaser for our audience, because
Right.
that's just something really great to start watching your journey on. And of course, the Microsoft team is here to start making sure that those connections come through, and that what you want to get out of the program with your clear vision, we can help with.
Right.
So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to leave it there. And we might check in with you in a couple of months and see how it's all going. But we'll wrap up. So thank you so much, Tayef.
Thank you as well. Thank you. Have a nice day then. Take care.
Yeah, you